All right. How does James Harden's impact on other players on the Sixers roster? We have a question here or a comment here. I think we need good cutting players, and that's my guy. That the biggest mystery I have in my head is Matisse Thybulle and his dynamic with cutting to the basket. I mean, he's among I think 98th percentile cutting to the basket, 32 of 37 on cuts to the basket this year. The Sixers yet run, among the fewest cuts in the league. You now have a point guard. You now have a real ball handler, a real playmaker in James Harden. How is that going to impact, a guy like Matisse Thybulle, who I think, he just needs to go from here to here offensively to be a solid player for the Sixers and not make his offense that hindrance on the Sixers offense. So for me, it's Matisse Thybulle, man. I'm really interested to see how James Harden and Matisse Thybulle gel here. So I'll throw it to you, Rob. Who is the guy you're looking at that's going to have, biggest impact with this James Harden addition?
Listen, I'm going to look at Tobias Harris. I mean, I just am. I think, how great would it be if Tobias can gain some confidence from having a little bit more space as guys are getting doubled on the other side, getting to the basket. I mean, I happen to love Tobias when he's downhill, when he's getting the ball and going downhill, when he's not thinking too much about it. That's when I think Tobias is at his best. And right now, I love Matisse's defense. So I see what you're saying, but he's so anemic offensively. Mm-hmm. I'm looking for, all right, as these other two guys get a lot of the defensive attention, who's going to score the basketball? We've talked about Tyrese Maxey, but to me, Tobias Harris has to be that third guy now that he was tipping. That's who he was brought here to be in the first place, right? He was brought here to be option number 3. I would love to see him relish in that, having a James Harden and a Joel Embiid, giving him the space to just be the downhill player. And by doing that, be able to knock down a couple threes as well.
Yeah, just real quick before Austin. Here is Matisse Thybulle from the corner this season, 32.6%. You look at Danny Green's impact from the corner 3, much better. So obviously we need a lot more from Matisse Thybulle offensively. We've been saying that for years, but now you have a real, real point guard that can find him getting to the basket. What about you, Austin? Who benefits the most here?
Danny Green is my answer. I think Danny's camp was pretty happy that he was not involved in the Harden trade, and I think they're pretty happy that he was also the trade was made. Period, because they have their point guard now, and I mean Danny is averaging 1.13 points per possession, which is 81st percentile in the NBA on spot ups. So I mean the guy, if you have somebody that can suck in help defenders and rifle it out to the shooter, Danny is that guy. And if he will get them up in bunches. He has a 3-point rate above 80, which is insane. So he, if Harden is there to bring it to draw to and then kick, they're in good shape. Danny's in good shape.
Green's been shooting well since he's come back.
People don't like Danny because he's a spot guy and they don't like what he had to say about.
Yeah, exactly. You just took the words right. The only reason the fans in this town want to still give Danny grief is because he tried to defend his teammate. Well, guess what? Danny spoke up a little bit the other day, right? Danny said, "Oh, I don't think he'll play here. He don't like to play in Philly." So Danny is a locker room guy. He knows what he has to do to keep a locker room together. Danny Green is a necessity on this team. And I'm telling you, I will go to my grave believing if he doesn't get hurt against Atlanta, it doesn't matter what 25 did. I believe the Sixers win that series.
I agree.
There is a big anti-Danny Green fan base in this town, 100%. James says, does anyone fear that Simmons could lock up James Harden? Nets fans are chirping. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Isn't he averaging 31 against Ben or something like that?
I would fear that. I would certainly fear that. I think that's a very legitimate concern to have. I mean, the Nets wanted Thybulle because they wanted to have 2 Danny Green stoppers. So
I'm sure I've done that before. Hold on, give me 1 second.
I thought that someone had it out there that Harden and I know stats don't tell the whole story. I I don't know. I'm just not fully believing that Simmons is going to be all there mentally. And in a playoff series where he's got to play here, I just don't know how he's going to handle it from that side of things, because the fans aren't going to say, oh, let's be nice, he's got things going. No, it is going to be maybe one of the most visceral environments I've seen in Philly. And I'm comparing that to when T.O. came back in a Dallas uniform and all that stuff. I mean, this is a guy who sat out a half a season and held the organization, the fans hostage. It's not good. It's going to be really ugly.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome, man. I pray for a 7-game series, man. That would be unbelievable. Quick. Yeah, Austin?
There are like 2 scenarios where I would, if I'm the Nets, I'm like terrified. Number one is playing Atlanta in the play-in. If he has to play the Hawks in the play-in, and they're just like fouling him over and over again, if I'm the Nets, I'm legitimately concerned about him falling into like the sunken place, like where like he can't like
the sunken place. Was that a Jordan Peele reference?
I don't know where I got that from, actually. That's something where I would be like legitimately terrified of him just having an out of body experience where he just is not like even a functional player. Also, they play the Sixers. I don't even know how many games he would play in that series, because he wouldn't want to play in front of the Sixers fans. Someone close to Ben keeps telling me that he doesn't have a problem playing in front of the fans. I'll believe that when I see it. But,
I agree. And Charlie Brown will be in every single minute of that game. Just hack a Ben.
Being like, you go commit 6 fouls in 5 minutes, and we'll pay you an extra 30.
Someone brought up a scenario in which it's like late in a game, and they're going to be fouling Ben in a close game or something. Do you dare mess with it? Does Steve Nash dare mess with the psyche of Ben Simmons, which is obviously, it's very thin, and do a Goran Dragic, Ben Simmons offense, defense sub? Like, does he? Because, schematically, it makes sense, right? But
what if they're just like, Day'Ron Sharp, go trip Ben and roll his ankle, and then he can't play the rest of the game?
Quinn says, I like to see Niang play key minutes. If there's a guy that's going to play late minutes, it's definitely George Niang, right?
No, please God, no, don't let
no.
It worked against Giannis one time. If they're switching, and you have Niang guarding like Kyrie or Trae Young,
for sure,
or like Derek, or not Derek. Who am I thinking of? DeMar DeRozan. He's going to get devoured. You cannot have George Niang in there.
I don't mind Niang playing key minutes in the sense of playing during the game, but I don't necessarily want him in there at the end of the game. But I think Niang's one of those guys that can shoot off the bench that you're going to have to count on, in the middle of games. I agree. I don't know if I want to see him in there at the end, but I'll take Niang coming off the bench in the middle of games and knock down some shots.
Oh, their bench, man. Their bench is rough. Brian says Simmons is going to relentlessly be heckled, and Philly can't perform in the playoffs. With fans on his side, he might just implode.
Not to mention, it's not like Philly and Brooklyn are that far apart, and it's not like the Brooklyn fan base is this rabid fan base. Do you think there's not going to be a ton of Sixers traveling up the turnpike and going to those? They're going to be there. Yeah. Like, they're going to be in Brooklyn to make this guy's life miserable for however long it's
Ben might have to request to play with like noise canceling AirPods in his ear. He can't hear anything.